One of the buzzwords in the divorce universe is narcissist. If you Google and look at much of anything, you'll see tons of people, divorce coaches, therapists, lawyers, talking about narcissists. And I get why it's happening. Because here's the other thing you may not know about that happens is the family law community in general. When you come into their office and say the word narcissist, they're like this. Everybody thinks they're divorcing a narcissist, and they're like so high and mighty about it. Here's the thing. I do think the word gets overused. They use the word narcissist to mean self-absorbed a-hole, okay? That does not make you a narcissist necessarily. But I also think it's true that we're probably dealing with a lot of narcissists. Like, I don't disbelieve what you're saying to me, but I'm gonna ask you to think for just a second about what you're saying. Like, before you ever go into that office, why don't you Google what are the characteristics of a narcissist? And is it like in the medical sort of term, or do I actually use that word as a proxy, like as a substitute for he or she is a real jerk? And I think you should get really clear, but I want you to know that I believe you, right? Like, I believe you that the person you're divorcing is a narcissist. I think it's really common and it happens a lot. I don't know if it's social media, the internet, entitlement. I don't know what's done this to us as a society, but I do think it's rampant. Just be careful before you go popping off about narcissists, this and that, and you go talk to a lawyer, because you may make them like roll their eyes at you and be like, kind of thinking you're an idiot without meaning to do it. One of the reasons people will use the word narcissist to describe the person they're divorcing, I think, is somehow it puts a label and a name on the villain in their experience, right? It gives them something to try to communicate to you, person who doesn't know them, judge, lawyer, that says, look, he's the bad guy, she's the bad guy, and they're this sort of bad guy. So I think in some ways it's to validate their own experience. And maybe if they were educated in the DSM and different kinds of like cluster B behavior or disorders and all these other mental health things, they might pick a different word. But what they really mean is like one of those people who like turns the world inside out, truly believes like everything in life is derivative of their existence. Like they oftentimes can kind of lack empathy and truly will treat other people only as how they like affect themselves. And there can be a lot more than just being a super jerk, and they always make things more difficult. But I think that people use it as a word to describe a whole set of behaviors. And like, look, family lawyers, can we give them a break? Like people haven't gone through what we go through on a daily basis of having to splice and dice whether this qualifies or doesn't, and what does that mean for the case. They're just trying to explain to you that we're dealing with a really difficult person. And it's going to be hard, and we should hear it's going to cost them a lot of money. And I think we could show up with compassion of like, hey, I hear what you're saying. Can you tell me some more about that? What do you mean by saying he's a narcissist or she's a narcissist? It's usually women talking about men. He's a narcissist. Like, what exactly does he do? And we have a chance as family lawyers to come in and help bridge the gap for you. Maybe you really are dealing with one. And the way that would play out in your case is like how the lawyer has to interact with that person is different than like a person who isn't that way, right? So it informs the way we go about the case. But it's not like if you're truly a narcissist and it's on your forehead, the judge is like, oh, well, you get no kids. Sorry. Like, that's not the way that it works. It just informs the process. And maybe you'd get an expert to try to demonstrate it and demonstrate how that would impact the kids. But it's complicated and messy and gets a lot of press out there. I don't know why so much right now, but I see it a lot in our practice. In dealing with a narcissist or a really difficult person, whatever you want to call them in a divorce, probably there are two concepts that define the behavior you should exhibit in that sort of a situation, okay? There's Biff and there's Gray Rock. Okay, first, Biff. Your communication with really difficult people, this is just like life advice, hello, at work or wherever, brief, informative, factual, firm, okay? So Not a big bunch of long tirades. Don't try to convince them that you're right. You never will. Don't try to like insert a bunch of conclusions and judgments and you always and how come. You don't got to give all of your reasoning, right? You're going to be brief, like to the point, informative. Tell them what they need to know. Like if this is your co-parent, you got to communicate stuff about the kids. Factual, stick to the facts. No editorializing, no bunch of extra information, and firm, like solid, not gushy, clear deadlines, clear responses, no wiggle room. Okay. So the BIF communication method, there's tons of that out there. Obviously I did not invent it, but that's the way to deal with those people in a divorce and beyond into your co-parenting journey. The other concept is gray rock. And for those of you really dealing with that sort of person, all right, we know what we're talking about. The gray rock method, I don't remember where I heard about that. Essentially, you've got to be a gray rock to that person. They no longer have access to your thoughts, feelings, hopes, dreams, reasoning. What they say, you look, what must be responded to, what must be dealt with, and otherwise let it flow off like you're just a gray rock. Don't take the bait. Don't respond in anger. Don't try to convince them. Don't try to demonstrate why you're amazing and they're stupid. Like, it's not going to work. And you will actually create a worse record and worse evidence against yourself. So in dealing with a really difficult person, if you can employ BIF and where necessary, gray rock, you will have such a different and better experience in your divorce and custody situation and in co-parenting beyond that. This really comes up when we've settled in for the long haul. Guys, we're here for I always say we're here for a long time, not a good time, the Long Timers Club. In custody worlds, that is how you keep your sanity. I think the best way to get closure in your divorce is to get really in touch inside in that center place, that spot we all have where the still small voice lives, and just accept what is. It just is. Nothing's good or bad, yet thinking makes it so. Easy for me to say on a video on the internet, but it's how I've done it and how I've made peace with it. Like the situation, whether your divorce went amazing for you or terrible, whether it was super difficult or super easy, where we resist, we experience pain. So if you resist the fact that you're divorced and that you're never going to have the Christmas with the whole family again, or that your kids are going to have this difficult situation to deal with for the rest of their lives, or the honeymoon dreams you had of a future retiring together in the Bahamas. If you focus on what was or what could be, you create this tension. You're resisting what is. And if you can settle into what is, that is where you can build the foundation of a happy rest of your life. But we got to get serious about reality. We can deal with that, whatever it is. We can deal with it and move on. But it's the resistance that's the pain. I always say that in a divorce, you get to be bitter or better, and you choose. So once you get real about what is, you can say, okay, bitter or better. Bitterness and resentment and anger are fear-based emotions. What are you afraid of? Afraid of what he said is going to come true? You're going to end up alone, broke? Are you afraid of your kids may end up liking her better and they don't want to come see you anymore? Are you afraid of what people will think of you? Are you afraid of the shame you might feel at church about being divorced? Okay, that's the bitter path. And I highly recommend you join us on the better path. Over here, we accept what is and we build anew. What's amazing about getting divorced, right? And look, I'm not the pro-divorces person in the world. If you can stay married and it's good for y'all, do that. But for the rest of us, when you choose better, you start from what is. This is the situation. and you get to create life anew. That's the gift in divorce, a brand new start. Now, look, it may have some bumps and some warts on it. There's some things about it that it's not your most favoritist, but you get to do it again and you get to choose. Probably in divorce may be the first time in your life that you really understand what it means to be in choice, right? You may have gotten married super duper young and this whole life was on top of you and you felt just like things in motion tend to stay in motion, right? Like keep on going. But now you get to choose, where do you want to live? How do you want to show up in this world? What do you want to do without all the other baggage of this other partner who may have been influential and you not operating from full choice? So for me, the path to closure is inside, accepting what is and getting really clear about bitter or better. You choose. Here's one thing you can do if your divorce is complete and you're looking for some closure and something to do with this, right? Those of us who've been through this process are members of a club. We know. And one thing you can do is pay it forward. That's my advice to you. If you're divorced and you're wondering what to do with all of this energy that you'd spent on this whole time, what you can do is help someone who's in the middle of that process. Or some gal you know who's thinking about getting divorced, helping her get prepared. You might send her to our My Confident Divorce course where she can prepare to get divorced without losing her kids, money, and sanity. You can be a listening ear for someone in the middle of it when no one else seems to understand. So nothing feels better, right, than helping somebody else. And divorce presents you an amazing opportunity to make a huge difference. Like, look, based on my divorce and custody situation, I built a whole law firm, helping other people just like you who are going through this. And the sky's the limit for you too. So let's get closure and let's move on and do something with it. If you want ideas about how to do that, how you can support other people, feel free to reach out to our firm at Hembree Law. We'd be happy to talk with you and see how we can get you plugged in.